Alright you guys, now that we've gotten this Arrma Limitless to 165 miles per hour, it's time to upgrade the chassis and the body to one of the best on the market. Bang! Let's get this thing quickly unboxed and I'll show you what it looks like. Alright. Oh, yeah. Oh man, look at that. So it looks like they have drilled out the holes that they believe would be necessary, right? A lot of the normal holes for battery trays and things like that are not drilled out, but they are started on this side. So you can drill them out if you want to. Really cool. Now with this chassis, you've got the chassis infills built in as well as the front splitter, so it makes for the underside of this build to be extremely smooth and flat. So, alright, let's go ahead and open up the rest. Alright, so front splitter and the hardware that comes with that. One of the two front and rear diff plates, and then just a couple other pieces to make it all work. I've done a very similar build to this on my channel, so I'm not going to go through a step-by-step. It's going to be the same exact setup, you guys. So the only difference being this whole front piece is built into the chassis. So that's the only difference. Let me go ahead and get this part of the build set up, and then I'll show you exactly what I'm going to be moving over and really what that looks like when it's mostly done. I'm not going to bore you with an entire build video because I've already done a video like that. So, alright, let me go ahead and get this up and running and I'll show you guys what that looks like when I'm done. Alright, so we got all the nuts and bolts on for the front and rear diff plates. Something to note though, if you have the extended chassis like this one, you actually have to remove that, mount the front differential, and then reinstall it. So I just put it on to see what it looked like. And that's pretty much it. Two of the screws are not used if you're using the SPC or GTC version. So just, if you have some extra screws left over, don't worry about that. Anyways, let's go ahead and start taking things out of here and installing them onto the new chassis. I think I'm gonna just move everything over as is with the single motor setup for now, run it like that. But we will probably end up moving to a dual motor setup. So if that's something you guys want to see, definitely hit subscribe so you don't miss that video in the future. All right, you guys. So I know the video started off with, hey, here's the chassis. But, you get started and you get rolling and, you start working on it. I figured, let me go ahead and finish everything and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. I have been posting some shorts, though, on my channel. So if you're interested in going back and seeing kind of some more specific things, you can go back and look through the shorts on the channel. Some of you may have already seen those and are kind of up to date with the build, but regardless, I'm going to make this video and show you guys what it ended up looking like for the dual motor build. So with the body, I wanted to do kind of a white to blue fade, but really the blue kind of overpowered everything. Looks better from underneath, the fading job, but it is what it is. It's not perfect. It's probably going to get messed up anyways on the run, so I didn't want to do anything too nice. Also had to plug up some holes where, I move things around and, change my mind about where I want things mounted. So, again, the body's not perfect. It is what it is. Okay, so the build. We got dual 2028 1700 kV motors, 2 XLX2s, and 4 of the 8600 milliamp hour SRD speedrun batteries, version 3. There's so much to talk about on this car. So I think I'll just kind of work from the front to the back and explain kind of what I did and why I did it, the ideas that I got from other people, etc. So normally you'd have your body post right here, or the mount for it right here. Ended up moving it all the way to the front. It is extremely firm, stable, not going to go anywhere. So that's what happened with those holes there, moving them up there. But that enables me to get the body extremely low and able to cut a lot of it down. So you can see I cut right where the body turns forward. And that's a really nice spot to actually tape up whenever I actually go to do the speed run. So that's there, GPS here, and the servo is over on this side with a long servo arm. I originally got this idea from Kevin Talbot, so move that there. That enabled me to put the 2 motors in this orientation. Now, you can't really do that with shocks in the front, so I ended up going with links, and that idea is from Scorched RC. Of course, people have done it in the past. They're not the first to come up with it, but that's where I got the idea from. And there's still a lot of flex, right, in the plastics once this is actually on the ground and you're going over bumps, where it still kind of has a shock action to it, but definitely stiff. And if I want to change the ride height, I don't do anything with the droop screws. I actually do all of that right here, and it keeps the ride height exactly where I want to put it. Okay, servo wire is protected in this loom, going all the way to the receiver box. Okay, of course this is a Scorched chassis, and everything on it is pretty much custom, like where you want to put things. So battery packs, I'll actually start with that next. I've got some L brackets on the front and rear that are, specific to this length battery. Of course, if you have a different length, you can move that however you want. And I've got their battery straps down there. It's really hard to drill out carbon fiber straight. You can mark it straight if you want, but sometimes the bit kind of slips into one of the in-between sections where those fibers are weaved together. Really complicated and really difficult to drill it straight, but it is what it is. So got one battery here and over here, of course. And from a balance perspective, those batteries and motors slightly forward, and then the 2 batteries in the back, it really does have a really close 50 to 50 weight distribution front to rear. So I definitely wanted to have 2 batteries like this with the 2 motors up front. The motors are, of course, the heaviest thing. Anyways, weight distribution is really good. For the rear, if I didn't have these battery risers, right, where I've got the batteries on standoffs right in there, that bronze looking standoff there, the battery would not have been able to fit where it's at because of the A-arm on the rear. I actually had to, come up with an idea to get these batteries up so I can then move them back as far as they could. You can see the L bracket right here enables the battery to be really far back, but not get in the way of any of the suspension moving around. So really happy with that idea. The battery risers, I'll call them. I'm sure other people have done it before, but it's kind of the first idea I thought of myself and implemented into a car. And I think that, it's going to be one of those things where hopefully somebody sees this idea and says, that was pretty cool. I like that. I'm going to do it myself. And hopefully I had kind of a say in that. So really cool. I'm kind of proud about that. Like I said, other folks have probably done that before. But it enabled batteries to be placed back here right next to the ESCs. Okay, so that's batteries. Of course, the motor and the motor mount, that's self-explanatory. Really difficult to get the pulsation exactly the same, but this is as close as it's going to get. Of course, the center brace enables me to run the servo wires into the receiver box, and the antenna, the receiver that I'm using, has dual antennas that need to be perpendicular to each other, so that's why we have an antenna running down on that side. Now, before I actually switched the XLX2 plugs over to these bullets, it was a normal Y harness or harness in series, and that made the battery wires and the ESC wires just a jumbled mess right over here and here. If you guys saw some of my shorts, you might have seen that, and it was actually made the body kind of difficult to set on top, and it wasn't very clean. I switched to these bullets and these jumper cables to help clean that up, right? So you plug it in, negative first, and then the positive jumper, then the negative jumper, and then the positive on the ESC. because the positive ESC has the 2-stage plug, right? And that is what enables the spark to be minimized. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay, ESC wires, they're routed underneath the battery trays, zip tied to the standoffs, then zip tied here and go into a Y harness. Of course, I'm not going to do a video on how to calibrate each ESC one at a time. Check out Ross Schifrin's channel. He does a good video on how to do all of that. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll answer them if I can. Otherwise, I might point you over to Roz's channel. He might be able to explain it a little bit better. But through the process of getting this dual motor ESC to work, I was working with an RC6GS radio. Ended up switching over to Futaba system and Futaba receiver, of course, and everything kind of worked a little bit smoother, a little bit better, but you're still going to have, my experience is under acceleration, everything sounds good, it works perfectly, but under braking, the motors were kind of not in sync, right? So you would hear a pulsing sound under braking. I talked to Roz, I talked to James McCoy, I talked to Castle Creations, and ultimately we ended up with the problem being the motor's not in sync. And with this scorched mount, it's difficult to get them perfectly in sync. But get it as close as you can, and if you still have a little bit of pulsing, it's quote-unquote normal, because even two motors are not going to have the same exact kV, so you're going to have that regardless. So of course, this came from my other build, so if you want to go back and look at the version 2 build that I did over the winter, you can see all the different things I did with the differentials, all the bearings, and everything else in the car. All that's been moved over, and this is what we have now. So let me go ahead and plug everything in and show you guys at least how the battery wires look, and then I'll get the body on and show that. All right, so like I said, start with the negative here. I'll plug that in. And then this part really doesn't matter, but I still like to line up, what's the negative side to the positive side. So we'll plug that in here. Then we've got the negative next. And then lastly we have that, but I won't plug that in yet. It's a good way to get everything started and ready for whenever you turn on your radio. Now we'll do the same thing over here, negative to negative. Jumper. Now the negative side. And lastly, we have the positive. So then we'll turn on the radio. And I have it set up where the driver side is the primary ESC and the passenger side is the secondary. It's just easier to remember that way. Also the battery pack, I will power that on, and that will turn our booster on. So while I'm here, you can see how I have the antenna ran, comes out here, down into the booster, and that works really, really well. Okay, positive side on the primary ESC, and positive on the secondary. And there we go. Steering works, gyro works, and of course, super smooth overall, so really happy with that. Whenever you turn it off, do the secondary first and then the primary. Not that it super matters, but the secondary doesn't have power from the receiver itself, so you'll just have a radio glitch error if you turn off the primary one first. And of course, with the power that goes to the system, it takes a second to turn off, and now we're fully off. So that's the build, you guys. If you have any questions, let me know. But you know, this was really the toughest build I've ever had to do, obviously, and you know, I'm excited to run it for the first time. My goal with the single motor Limitless, open wheel Limitless, was 160 or more. Ended up at 165 before building this. We'll say the goal for this one is 170. I'm pretty sure it'll do it. We'll see what it gets to. And if you guys want to see that, be sure to subscribe to the channel. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.